Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now here in my hands, my Mossberg 590 Thunder Ranch Edition shotgun. This is a tactical model. It does not get shot a whole heck of a lot because it is a tactical shotgun. It's not like I'm going out to the range shooting trap every single week, but it has had a number of rounds through it, through practice, number of different things that I've done to demonstrate different products, and at this particular time, well, I had to clean it. So in today's video, we go through a basic disassembly, kind of tearing it down a little bit, getting into some of the inner parts and inner workings inside the receiver, the action, all the things that you need to know to take this apart and properly clean it. In a future video, you will see that I am swapping out the fore end. So I actually, in this process, swapped out from the standard pick rail that came with mine to the M-LOK fore end, which at this point does serve me a little bit better purpose, so that's a future video. But today, really more about the disassembly, the cleaning process, and what I go through to make sure that this is tip-top shape and ready for future action. So with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. And so now as I get into this, preparing this to clean it, disassembly pretty straightforward. Just going to start to strip things down, so removing the nut, which sometimes you just kind of need to shift things around and get that pump to move by a little bit of clearance. And at this point, everything coming apart. So again, here you can see that little adapter there. Now again, this is for a QD sling, and then the barrel. So I'm going to prepare the barrel. I need to take a look at this. I'm curious what's going on inside. How dirty is it? I definitely need to clean everything, full cleaning. And I'm curious, I feel like there might be a little bit of copper fouling, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on, so we'll take a closer look. Dropping out this pin. And my trigger assembly coming out very easy. That's not a problem. Pretty straightforward. Depressing these pins here, you'll notice this is pretty simple. Just getting everything to slide here. So here you can see I'm removing the cartridge interrupter and the cartridge stop. These pretty much literally fall out of place. Removing these bars. Here, as I push in these pins are holding in the shell lifter, and by getting the shell lifter out of the way allows me to actually slide the action a little bit easier, get some of the parts out of the way, and buy the clearance I need to remove the pump action bars from the receiver. The fore end sliding out. Here I'm removing the bolt slide. This has to be removed through the relief cut in the bottom end of the receiver. Sliding out the bolt assembly. Here you can see I'm centering the bolt, but I can't get it out the front of the receiver until I remove the shell elevator. So pushing these pins, you can see these pins are what are holding that shell elevator in place. And once I get this out of place, I can then remove the bolt out the front end of the receiver. Which the bolt slides right out of the front of the receiver. Popping out my little door. And everything here pretty well stripped down so I can see clearly inside the receiver. That's nice. This could be cleaned out with ease at this point, no problem. And all of these pieces very easy to work on now that everything has been fully disassembled. So now that this is disassembled, we'll get everything set aside. I do want to swap out the fore end. So as you take a look here, you can see. And so without getting into too much detail, I was able to easily remove the fore end. You can see here, everything came off easily right off of that pump assembly, so no problem whatsoever. Now just rough cleaning as many of these parts as I can using some solvent or CLP. Any of those tight areas, hard to reach, just trouble areas, leveraging these cotton swabs. Again, these are very useful for tight areas, places where there's just difficulty in the corners, and you can see just taking care of some of that grime. Cleaning my magazine tube on the exterior. I probably will not remove the spring and clean the inside at this point. I don't see the real need to do that. To me, that's really not necessary at this time and can be done pretty much at any time. I don't have any reason to believe it's terribly dirty inside, so just doing the best I can with a good quality exterior cleaning here. This is where leveraging the nylon brush is definitely going to come into play. Anything inside the receiver, this is going to work out wonderfully. Now I'm going to start by using some solvent. Just going to let that sit for a little bit. Also, with all the other parts in the bolt carrier group, just basically at this point, being very careful, but hitting it with some solvent on all the faces. And these are the types of parts here where I will use either the steel or brass brush. I'm not worried about that, and that would definitely help. So where it's a cast part or something like that, or a little more rough, I'm not going to have any problem using the steel brush. And same with any of these parts. So anything that's not a final finish or, sensitive, no problem leveraging that steel brush. So now while all of that soaks, I'm kind of curious what's going on in here. So I figured I'd leverage the Borescope and see if we can get ourselves a little bit of a picture in here as to what's going on. So I'm starting sort of at that face and the interface with the actual receiver. And actually, this doesn't look too bad. I'll tell you, there were some spots that I thought I was seeing that had me a little bit worried in the past. And I don't know what makes me say that, other than I just kind of, really need to just take a look at this and see if there's anything that catches me by surprise. And there were areas like, I'm not sure what this is, but where I have the shot basically scuffing up against this, I'm kind of like, what exactly am I seeing in spots? But anyway, I'm just going to take a couple minutes here, poke around, and see if there's anything of interest worth noting. Like, for example, you'll notice how here all the lines, for the most part, are all going in the same direction. But pretty quick, well, yeah, boom, here you go. Right? So we have all this impact with what I believe to be shot. And now, heading down the barrel in various locations. And again, this is a smooth bore barrel. And now that I'm seeing all of this, well, does all this get cleaned up? I mean, what exactly am I seeing? Is this like delamination, or is it just carbon buildup? I mean, that looks crazy to me, right? To me, this looks like chunks of metal are missing in the barrel, which would be so surprising because, I haven't done anything crazy with this shotgun. I've basically used birdshot and rifled slugs. So, I am hoping that we see this comes out, but this is the stuff I was seeing with my naked eye that had me a bit concerned and why I wanted to start looking at this. But I don't know, time will tell as we get into this, I guess. And you can see this area where it then smooths out. This is what I would expect to see in my barrel. And the rest of this looking pretty good. I can sort of scoot all the way to the end here, and there's that muzzle brake. So, that is what had me a little bit nervous. And this is kind of confirming that. And now if I actually take this, yeah. So, I'm seeing that with my naked eye. I think that's damage, to be honest with you. I can't quite tell. So again, I'm going to leverage the steel brush. And again, I don't expect this to cause any sort of problems here. Just going to go gentle. Just kind of spreading out the solvent. I have a feeling that the brass brush might be even a little bit better here. Yeah, that feels better to me. Just agitating that solvent a little bit as we work it out here. Again, not going too aggressive, just enough to kind of agitate things. Can be a little more aggressive here on my bolt pieces. I basically will go over everything twice, once with the solvent and then once with the CLP. That will ensure I get a real good deep cleaning, but then everything goes away lubricated and protected. That's the best part about the not only, cleaning, but lubricating and protecting. So CLP I do like as a finishing product. This is the first real good deep cleaning I've given my Mossberg. It has a few hundred rounds through it at this point, which is not a ton, but it is enough that at this point it deserves a real nice cleaning. So taking my time, deep cleaning this thing, making sure that it's put away, fully protected, lubricated, and just fresh. So this is really good for this from time to time. And of course working through all my pieces here. So again, keeping in mind the fact that this is the brass brush. Going pretty easy here, not scrubbing too hard, and just sort of agitating all the buildup. Just working inside the receiver here. Again, just trying to loosen everything up, loosen up the fouling, sort of agitate, break things up. And I'll go through here again very, very meticulously with patches and Q-tips and cotton swabs and all that good stuff. So I have been wondering for a while about buildup, and more specifically copper buildup. So I'm trying this copper remover to see if it makes a difference. Now at this point I am going to leverage the larger of the two T-handles with the larger rod. So these are the thicker version. You can see here this is going to be tight if I just go with this. So I'm going to go full length here. This is 12 gauge. So grabbing the 12 gauge brush, and this needs an adapter on the end, which again, grabbing an adapter, this will thread on easily, and the brush. Now I do typically work from one end to the other. What I am going to do here is actually insert this down the muzzle end, and I'm going to pull this through. If you push, you run the risk of damaging the rod. So I am going to pull this through, and it should be fine. And pulling this from one end to the other, very simple. I'm going to do this a couple times here. And one last time. And there you go. So at this point, that was the copper remover. I'm now going to hit this with the solvent. A few spritzes in each end. And we're going to let this sit and work on the fouling as we continue on with all the rest of the parts cleanup. Now again, keeping in mind these cotton swabs are just critical to getting some of these tight to reach places, really getting things nicely cleaned out, which I do find to be generally useful, the ability to dig into cracks and crevices and get some of those real tight to reach areas and just pull out debris and grime and do a nice job cleaning. So this is another thing that you may want to look at if you want to round out your cleaning kit. Coming back to the barrel, revisiting this now that the solvent has sat for a little while. Pretty straightforward here. Still leveraging this brush. Now I probably, in reality, don't need to be quite as careful, seeing as though this is a smooth bore. Does not have rifling. So just as long as when I push here, I don't bend the rod. That's the key. Pulling, I feel confident, but pushing, hard to say. And as I look through this, oh man, just a disaster inside. Which I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but there is just so much fouling built up here. But that does bring me to the next point, which is hit that a little bit. Just going to let that sit for a second here. We're going to swap out this brush now for the patch adapter. So you'll see here the kit with the patches and your patch adapter. Now, I am going to leverage this particular methodology. I could certainly go with the jag as well, but I'm basically just going to take a couple of patches here, and these are fairly large patches, which should work pretty well to my advantage now with the 12 gauge shotgun. You might struggle with smaller diameters, things like 22, maybe even 9mm for that matter. But we're just going to check this out. Oh yeah, look at that. That is black, black, black. And so again, I'm just going to do my best to clean this out. But that is just a nasty, nasty mess. Which makes me wonder if I can use this. Getting a little wad of patches here. And I'm basically going to shove as much through at once as I can. This requires the other adapter, which in reality you can literally put that straight onto the shaft. So I'm going to take just, I don't know, a wad of these, as many as I think I can get through at once. So I'm going to grab like 3 and stick them in the end here and just do my best to clean this, which, yeah, that feels good. So here, making wall contact the entire way down. That should really be doing a nice job cleaning. And you can see they're very dirty. Just saturating the patches. And here we go. Alright. So I'm kind of discouraged as I look down inside. I definitely see what I think is truly damage in that barrel. Probably fairly common for a shotgun. Do I think it matters? Absolutely not. I don't think it matters at all. But it could have some impact or implications. That barrel is going to be a work in progress as I go through this. So I'm just going to continue to clean. Just letting some more solvent and copper fouling dissolver kind of work on the barrel. But here, just taking advantage of that time and keeping moving. Now, what I can tell you is, I typically will use one of these brushes. So, grabbing the nylon brush here, just kind of moving these patches around in those tough to reach areas. That's another place where having things like the picks can work very well. So instead of leveraging the brush, if you have one of these nylon picks, you can definitely use that to, move around, dig at those tight areas, leverage the patches to clean. Sometimes you don't like sticking your hands inside the sharp edges or angles, but in this particular case, it's open enough I can kind of get away with it. Getting a little bit of feel in there. But again, this is the solvent. I am going to do this a couple of times. First with the solvent, and then again with the CLP. And of course, leveraging these nice long-handled cotton swabs here to my advantage. So now with everything cleaned, going back to CLP. Again, sort of second coating here. Getting everything nice and lubricated and protected. I'm not going too crazy on some of these areas where I don't want to get any of the cleaner, solvent, anything like that inside. Trying to avoid some of the spring areas. Just going easy. Nylon brush this time. Just spreading out that CLP. So I've been working through all the pieces, fully coated with CLP, cleaned a second time. Finalizing the barrel here, so very last pass. Just got some fairly clean patches. I got some CLP down on the inside and just a couple last final passes just to lubricate the inside of the barrel. I shouldn't say lubricate. What I really am meaning to say is leave it coated and protected for long-term use and storage. So just a little CLP, couple passes down and through. And then I'm going to grab my bore snake which here a 12 gauge bore snake, which is another fantastic way to go. This is another one of those possible gaps in the kit that you may want to close. Bore snake is absolutely awesome way to get some good quality finishing passes through your barrel. I use these for my handguns, rifles, and in this particular case, the shotgun. Pretty straightforward, just pulling this through. And this is a real nice finishing and cleaning pass, which I do very much like the outcome on my handguns. And you can see here that entire rope making contact with the inside of the barrel and just polishing that nice and clean. So this is the final pass here. I'll do it one more time and the barrel will be complete. So now taking a final look at this through the bore snake. Let's see. So here is a lot of that same sort of markings that we were seeing. Working down and through. Starting to even out, but that's just from loads of activity. Coming down to those areas where I was seeing the chunks. And I feel like in here, oh man. And that's got to be just the missing barrel coatings, I think. I mean, I can't say for sure. I will try to get clarification from Mossberg on that. I mean, I'm certainly by no means an expert, but, to me, that's what I feel like I'm seeing. Continuing on. Things start to even out, smooth out, and as we get deeper and deeper into the barrel, I mean, nothing worth considering the further and further. That's an interesting one. What is this? What is this? Jeez. So, I don't know. Look at that. That's clear as day. I gotta get a picture of this. So there are definitely some things worth considering here as we work through this. I mean, I don't know. Does it matter in a shotgun? Probably not. Am I gonna worry about it? Probably not. But you know what? I just want to know. I want to understand. More than anything else, I want to be able to speak accurately to it. So I'll reach out to Mossberg and see if I can get some answers. Keeping in mind there are some areas where I can see notable rub, so I am basically going to get just a little bit, and I'm not saying a lot, but just a little bit of grease into those areas. Again, leveraging something like a cotton swab. So I can clearly see the areas, and again, just getting a little light coat of grease on those areas. It does not take much. I'm going to start reassembly by getting the fore end back into place. If you take a look, a couple of holes here. So that's just going to slide right inside. I'll probably add just a touch of lubrication at the end on these points. You'll notice when you go to put this in, it bottoms out, but just push the arms down just a touch and they'll slide right into the grooves, and that allows that to retract all the way. Here's your shell elevator. So again, nicely coated with that CLP, but not too much. I'm going to get this inside, squeeze it together. You have a couple of holes on the sides of the receiver, and you can work that down into place. Pretty straightforward. So now as we work towards reassembly with the bolt, you can see down here the ejector. Now we need to make sure that that gets into the groove of the bolt, which you can see right here. So as we install this, we're going to go with this square side down, feeding back through the front of the receiver. And as we work towards this area here, we're trying to get, again, that ejector in line with the groove, which is pretty simple. Just takes a second, and that allows this to follow in the appropriate location. And as we work our way towards the back, it clicks into place nicely. Everything firm, just feels real nice and tight and square. All right, so here's the bolt slide, which what you're trying to do is pretty much make up the assembly that allows the bolt itself to move. And these grooves here, you can see these two grooves here, have to mate up with your forearm assembly. So in other words, there are the fore end arms, and you can see these tabs right here need to land in these grooves. So I have everything positioned now. You can see I have the bolt positioned roughly about here. I can actually slide around the fore end, and I'm trying to get it so that this little hook is landing inside the bolt in this area, and also the arms from the fore end are landing in the grooves. So if I get this and start to slide it down and into place, the other thing I'm trying to do is to get this to fall down and into the grooves in the side of the receiver. So it's a little tricky, but not too difficult. I'm basically going to drop this down and into place. I'm going to start to look at my arms and seeing where those grooves are going to land. Getting everything to align. Sliding my bolt forward. Now you can see at that point, this has dropped down perfectly, bumping it up just a little bit to getting to the point where those arms now fall inside the groove. And everything comes together. You can see the back end falling into the bolt. You can see the tabs falling into the slide, and the slide down and into the grooves, and that is working functionally perfectly. So this piece here is called the cartridge interrupter. You'll notice that it has a little indexing pin. It also has a curve. Now this is going to go towards the front of the gun, as you can see here, towards the front with the curve facing in. So as I have it here, it's going to be on the left-hand side, again, with the curve facing in. There's a hole on the side of the receiver, and this just fits right inside there. And it fits nice and flat. And that curve, you can see, sits right up against that follower on the inside there. And this here is the cartridge stop, which again you can see on the front has a curve, and then this tab, which with this upside down, this will be facing down. And you can see here, there is no indexing point, but there's really only one way this can go. And it sets inside the receiver, and it fits down and into place, which as you can see there, it's actually a little hard to see now, but it sits perfectly in place right inside that groove. Taking the trigger assembly, and just need to be a little bit careful here to get this to sit down and not fall the wrong way. Angling it in carefully, and that should help hold everything into place. And you can see once that sits down, we can reinstall our pin, which should be pretty straightforward. Does not take a lot. In fact, it's only finger tight, so that is simple. And now that's all back together. Reinstalling my barrel. So getting everything appropriately aligned. Barrel back in place. Getting my retainer in here. Now that's just, again, not difficult, just a little tricky. Kind of finagle things around, but there it is. And my magazine tube cover. Voila. And so with that, reassembly complete. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of grease in a couple of strategic spots, knowing that it's going to take the brunt of the action here, so just a little bit of grease in a couple of these key spots. Again, not going crazy, but just enough to lubricate and protect. And I must say, at this point, not only does this look good, but so far it feels buttery smooth. That is nice. And so, all right, guys, there you have it. A look at my Mossberg 590 Thunder Ranch Edition. Basic teardown, basic cleaning, the things you need to do to keep your firearm running in tip-top shape. Again, I only had a few hundred rounds through here, but it's enough to make it really dirty, dingy, and these things really can run. I'm sure I could have put well over 1,000 rounds through this, but the bottom line is this. You're already starting to see some damage inside the barrel. You're starting to definitely see some wear inside all of the components, and the dirtier it is, the more apt you are to have that damage. So to me, just keeping it clean, keeping it well lubricated, even if it is in storage, which is literally 99% of the time plus, this is just sitting in storage waiting for action. That's the key with a home defense shotgun. It needs to be ready to go. And for me, operationally, it just needs to be perfect. I need to know that it's protected. I need to know that it's well lubricated. And I need to know this is ready to go at a moment's notice. So keeping it clean, keeping it stored properly definitely will go a long way. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed that. So with that, thank you very much for following along. And if you like this content, do me a favor. Take a look at my Outer Limitless channel, which is more on my primary gear. On that channel, I cover everything from hiking, camping, and backpacking excursions, all the gear that goes with it. So from sleep systems, shelter systems, knives, axes, backpacks, flashlights, you name it. That's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.